those of you who don't know me, I'm Bill Donath. I'm president of the society for now, till October anyway. And then what we do on these meeting nights is we have the program first, then we have a short business meeting, and then we have refreshments in the back. So be sure to stick around for the goodies and get your share. We'll let Marlon make the introductions since she's program chair, and then we'll go from there.
Hello, thank you for coming this evening. Tonight's program is the Planning and Writing Committee from New Holland that compiled the book to celebrate their 150th anniversary, the sesquicentennial for New Holland. So the ladies are just going to talk about their experience and their project process, and hopefully some tidbits that you might have found out about the town that you can share, things you can say in public. So anyway, and thank you very much for coming, and I'll turn it over to Roseann and the ladies.
Thank you. Have you ever written a book?
No.
I never had. I helped on books, but I never laid it out. Bill has. Bill's written several of them. I don't count him as being nobody. He's an author. He's an author. Okay. I had never done anything like this before. As I said, I served co-chairman, and other people would organize it and get it started and so forth, and I just kind of came in the middle, got it organized, proofed, and all that, and ready to print. Well, this came up. My daughter-in-law, Annie Coers, sitting there, said, "You just finished 2 projects, didn't you? So you've got room maybe to do another?" And I said, "What?"
Oh.
"Well, there's no one to do the history of New Holland's 150th anniversary." She had me on history. No one to do the history because I love history. I'm not the most knowledgeable about it, but I love reading about it, and I just love hearing about it, okay? My favorite era is probably the 19th century. I could have lived then if somebody did the cooking, because I refuse to kill the animals. But anyway, I had a wonderful committee. The first part I had to do was find a committee. And I had been given a list of a couple of people, and I spoke to them, and they said, "Yes, I'll be glad to help." Nobody wanted to be the chairman. That was the problem, okay? So now I worked with a committee. There were 8 of us, and the ladies are all here tonight. Unfortunately, Perry Cole was the gentleman who helped with the agricultural part, but he has fallen, punctured a lung, so he is not getting around very well. And he's the only one that's missing. So I was very blessed. Every one of these ladies, whenever I asked or we offered a suggestion, they carried the ball. They got it done. One section we did is the one on, we have several different sections in the book. I basically started out, I plagiarized. I'm sorry, I admit it, I plagiarized. I figure if it's well written, why should I try to make it better if it's already good? So we plagiarized the 100th anniversary book and the 125th. Just picking out important parts, and then we developed them. One thing we did find was that we have a big tourist site in New Holland. New Holland actually has a buffalo waller. And it's out northwest of New Holland on route, well, I guess it's the county road 2100. And it's beautiful. It's sitting right out there on 1 or 2 acres, packed down as tight as you can get it, where those buffalo in the 1800s loved to wallow around in the mud, and then when it rained, it was water, and they would get their bath then. I understand when someone found out that around the buffalo no longer were in our area around 1830. But what they did prior to that really compressed it down. And no farmer has been able to farm it. It's so tightly put together, and when it rains, it holds water. So you're not going to be able to plant anything if there's too much water. So that is our new tourist site in New Holland, and it's at the very beginning of our book. And this is the front cover of our book. Now, we plagiarized Bill's front cover on his Spanish flu book, except he used the 2 hospitals. And the gals, when they saw that, they thought that would be neat for our book. And so the top one is probably very early 1900s, and this one was taken in December of 2024. The one thing that I noticed probably more than anything else was, I remember that back when Oliver Holland first sold property, it was in the deed that they were not allowed to serve any liquor. If they were caught serving liquor that owned that deed, it would be forfeited, and he would get the property back. He had gone out to California, he hated the saloons, how people got drunk and were rowdy and so forth. And so when he came back and eventually started the town, he said, no drinking in my town. Interesting story in the book that his son tells about. I'm not going to tell it to you, you have to read it. But I found it interesting, up here, you couldn't serve hard liquor, but we have a beer sign down here, now in 2024. So I guess things have changed in New Holland in 150 years. But, you know, maybe most people wouldn't notice that, but I did, knowing the history up here. But we're pretty proud of our book. We worked very hard on it. We started, our first meeting was April Fool's Day, 2024. And to be honest with you, none of us knew what we were doing, me especially. I had no clue. We met maybe 3 or 4 more times, and we started talking, throwing out ideas. The gals started picking up on some things. I'll do that. Well, why don't we do this? And they carried the ball with it. And by the next meeting, they bring in suggestions. Chris Hinch and Barb Struming started the teachers part of it, section of it. Do you want to give us some highlights about why you wanted to do it and what you did? Chris will give you some.
Again, my name's Chris Hinch. And I just thought, not just teachers that taught in New Holland, of course, but teachers that not only taught, but they also raised their families and lived in New Holland for the rest of their days. And oddly enough, there was quite a few. I first just thought we'd have a few pages, but we didn't. So it was really nice to know they taught and stayed, made New Holland their home. So yeah, we just started listing names that we could think of, and then boom, popped out another name and another name. And yeah, they're still here. They live down there, and so it's a good section. It's a good section. I contacted, many of them are gone today, so I contacted their families, which were very cooperative. They were very anxious to have their mother or father's story told. And so we received very good articles on themselves, their personal life, their teaching life, and it turned out to be a very nice portion, a nice section of our book.
Nicely, nicely. And Barb Strubing helped her with that. And Barb spent a lot of time recognizing her mother in the book, who is 104 years old. And she was in church yesterday, very active lady. But that she's got an excellent caretaker over there. Barb takes very good care of her mother. And she was an asset to our working on the book. So,
Roseann, I might mention Paul Mary, who is in our book.
yes.
And for those of you who are alumni of Lincoln High School, Mr. Mary, along with Dave Hanger, wrote the Lincoln We Are Proud of You March song. I just happened to have a personal autographed copy. I was a piano student of his. He lived right across the street from me, from the home I grew up in Holland.
He was my uncle, but that's but I didn't take piano. Okay. All right. So Chris, along with Marge Medina, who is a member of our society, and along with Gary Dotson and Bill Dona's help, did a wonderful piece on doctors. Do you want to just fill us in? She's having back issues, so if you want to sit and just talk and tell us a little bit about it, that's fine.
Hi, I've been RN for over 50 years, so I took the doctors on and had no idea what all had happened in New Holland. And it was just really interesting, especially from the book that Bill did about Spanish flu. And what happened there, I really had no idea or appreciation of it. And at one time, New Holland had 3 doctors in practice there. So it was interesting, and Bill did a lot to help Chris and I go through a lot of the information. He found a lot of great articles for us from the newspapers that they reported what was wrong with who was being treated. There was a rattlesnake bite. There was they had to do an amputation in a drugstore of a little boy's arm. They got shot while they were out hunting, and just all kinds of things. But one of the saddest story was the Spanish flu. The first week, the doctor that was in town, of course, was on first line of seeing the patients, died after the first week of the flu, from treating people, and he had a baby. So the doctor that came to replace him, Dr. Carroll, was in practice for 30 years in New Holland, was the last doctor there. And Mildred Strubing, Barb's mom, has a painting that she did. They grew up in the house where he had been there, and she has a painting of that. So we got a picture of that in the book. So it just didn't have an appreciation. I found out from Bill's book that my grandparents had the Spanish flu, and I never knew that. That was in there, and never had heard about that. To see what had happened 100 years from the time of that to COVID, and it listed just all the people they treated, made in the newspaper what was wrong with you, and lots of different ailments, and what they treated them with. And they didn't have a lot of anesthesia, and medications weren't all that great either. They had a couple drugstores in town, and just did the best they could, and worked with Lincoln doctors and Mason City doctors. And I just got to give them credit for what they had to work with, the conditions they worked with. And I really appreciate your help, Bill, with getting that information. It was interesting. And I want to add a thing about the teachers, though.
Okay.
I had this in New Holland. I had the same first grade teacher as both my parents. They were in the same class together, and ended up getting married after World War II. They didn't go out in high school, but got married after. So, and lots of stories there. And Mildred Strubing was Chris and I, our fourth grade teacher. And yeah, was teacher. I got all this, yeah. So there's just a lot of history there. And Chris also has a lot. Her name is in the index quite a few times because she's a Centennial Farm owner, and her dad, there's a patent from a piece of machinery that he put together, a magazine article. So if you look at Chris Hedge, there's a lot of pages. So I just had to throw that in.
Well, I'm glad you did. That leads us into the index.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of stuff in between, but when you have, originally our quote was for 150 pages. My goal was 150 pages, 1 page for every year. I didn't think that seemed unreasonable. Well, by the time these ladies got done working and we compiled everything and we went to do the index, it was over 217 pages. And we were so grateful and so thankful for everyone that submitted articles, family histories. Some of the older ones just couldn't wait to write. And Mildred was always telling Barb different stories, and Barb was writing them down and submitting them for her mom and the businesses and so forth that existed in her lifetime there. So, but Sharon Davison did the index for me. At a meeting, I kept saying to the gals, well, you know, we may have an index, but we're not going to get the book done by next year if you let me do it, because I don't know the first thing about Excel. And so Sharon was sitting at one of those meetings, probably getting tired of me saying that, and she says, I might try that. Let me see what I can come up with. And so Sharon took it on, and it's awesome. Do you want to talk about your time doing the index?
Well, I'll say a little bit. I'm Sharon Davison. I'm so thankful for these women because I don't know how to write a book. I was one of those at the very beginning going, I like history, but I don't know what to write about. So whenever she said about the index, you know, she said, I would like to have all the names and the page numbers. And I'm like, okay, maybe I can contribute that. And it was a little tough. I mean, because I was able to, you know, on Excel, you could pop up the names, but sometimes the names weren't exactly how we had them written. So between Roseann and I would do ones that, to give them to her, she would look up some more. But we did it. I think we did pretty good.
We did it. Thank you. Yeah, and she did a wonderful job. I have to tell you that, because if it had been left up to me, it would not have been done. So anyway, but it was when we did do the index, like Sharon said, she went through the whole book and she corresponded the page numbers to the name, and I did it independently also. And so when I got her copy, then I could lay it next to mine and proof it. And if we disagreed on something, then I had to go back through the book and find which one of us was wrong, or make the correction, so that we both agreed on the index, the page numbers and stuff. And when you buy the book, which I hope a lot of you do, some of them are really teeny tiny because on the format I was using, we couldn't make big numbers. And so we didn't carry it over because we didn't want to screw up the whole index. It looks really good. So, okay. My daughter-in-law, Annie, is very talented. She's the one that created up the 150th logo this year. And if you would like to buy a t-shirt, which they will probably have some on order for sale, and the centennial will be celebrated on the 7th of June. It's a one-day event, and they've got it packed full. And the water tower is in here. It's the only working wooden water tower in Illinois. Unfortunately, rumor has it, it may disappear this year because they're building a new one. And this one may have to come down to make space. Did you get it, Reggie? Okay. So this is, Annie did the logo, and you will see it on the back cover of the book, along with a color picture of our working wooden water tower. And it may be the last picture you'll ever see. You never know, okay?
I do have we have a bunch of shirts.
Are there some?
Yeah, on the 26th of April.
Okay.
On Saturday, we'll have a.
All right, so if anybody's in the New Holland area, I think there's a garage sale, December 26th. They said there are some shirts ordered if you wanted to come over and order
up
them.
there.
Okay, so, and we hope to have ours on that day when we distribute the books. Our books, I just received notice today that our books may be ready the end of next week. So we will be busy bagging them and everything. The pre-order sales are going very well. I'm very appreciative of that. It gives us an idea of just kind of what people are thinking about the book. And most of the book are articles from former members and present citizens of New Holland. Memories, what the town was like when they grew up there, and driving down through the town, how it's changed now, and it has, but it's still New Holland. We also included Sheridan Township, because as we all know, growing up in small towns, it was the farmers surrounding it that helped keep the businesses going in town. And so we incorporated, there are some articles written by some of the organizations that were at one time in the township but no longer are. We have the teachers, the veterans. I am so grateful for the historical books that have been published in Logan County. I am the proud owner of every one. And I knew I had a lot until I went to use them. Instead of them being pretty on the shelves, they're now used very well. But I had all 3 veterans books that we've done here, Volumes 1 and Volume 2 of Logan County Veterans. And I also had Bill Dona's book on World War I veterans. And so I spent 4 days going through photocopying every page of a veteran from the New Holland or Sheridan Township area. And then I handed 45 pages to my daughter-in-law, and then she proceeded to type the veterans section for us. And after we put the photographs that we had access to, we went to 68 pages. So this is how our book grew, okay? But it's the first time in the 3 history books that the veterans have been recognized in the New Holland book, and we're very pleased with that too. So, and people were really, really willing to send in things. A lot of the older ones were very proud to share even more about their experiences in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and so there is a lot of history there, and I hope that everyone will take time to thoroughly read it and see just what all they had to say. There is so much in there. We have articles on agriculture. Perry Cole gave a picture, and actually a newspaper article. He was 6 years old, driving the tractor to the next field behind the equipment. And a car stopped and said, "Aren't you a little young to be doing that?" "Gotta work." And he just drove right on. So that was back when the young ones learned how to drive that farm equipment and took over and did a good job. So anyway, that's just a little bit, as I'm pretty excited about the book, as all of us are. And we worked very hard. We finished doing the initial book, the first part of March. And we had it, we started proofing it, and then I had it to the printer by April 1st. Actually, that last week in March, I had it to him. And we reproofed it a couple of times because we ran in some, anyway, we just made some corrections and some things, so it still looks like a wonderful book that it is. And so he's been gracious about taking care of it. It's being printed local here at Lincoln Printers, and Noah has really been working hard with us on doing a good job. So it's 217 pages of interesting material covering New Holland, with Sheridan Township included. So I really hope that everybody would consider getting one so you can spend time or find someone to buy one and borrow it for a while to read it. And enjoy it as much as we did, because every time we did it, we learned something new. And we thoroughly enjoyed it. And I have to thank the Lord for a committee that was really good to work with, because I have to tell you, this book was only successful because of a lot of prayers. And a husband who didn't yell very loud when I kept pounding him about it, because it was on my mind for a solid year. I didn't even wake up in the middle of the night dreaming about it. That's how bad it got. So, but it's done. It's done. It's a product we're very proud of, and we hope to have it there on the 7th of June to distribute. Anyone who orders it early can pick it up that day. Well, anybody who wants to buy one that day can take one.
We have the forms on the desk.
And there are forms here, if anyone likes to pre-order a book, we have forms here. And so we will be taking those up until, the middle of April, or middle of May, the middle of May. So anyway, does anyone have any questions of any of us? Yes?
You say your water tower, is that the only wooden one in existence around here?
In Illinois.
You're gonna form a committee to save the tower?
That's what I was gonna ask, because.
No?
They're going through that in McLean, Illinois.
Maybe they'll say
McLean,
that.
Illinois.
Well, it's either tear it down or go without water. I think that's going to be a major decision for the town. I live in the country, so I don't have much say on that. But I'm sure it's been discussed many times, and they were able, I think the last thing I got is the Scout House will probably remain, because they thought the Scout House might have to be torn down too to make room for all the stuff that they're doing for the new tower. But it doesn't look like the water tower will be saved. So you want to definitely buy a book. It's got the picture on the back.
Could you place it someplace else so it just, it is a landmark of your town.
How many grants would that
You want to
take?
start a GoFundMe?
We would need that.
You don't want to ask me too much, because ask her, I'll go after her.
Well, and as she knows, it's up to the town board to decide. It's not up to us.
Has
So
anybody approached the town board?
I'm sure they've been asked, and they've probably looked at everything, and that this was just the way it goes. Sometimes progress does not leave much room for old things.
It's Pritzker. Get over Pritzker. And who was it that asked for all the doctors' names and everything?
Actually,
Margie and Chris worked on it. So.
I
Tom,
just
did you have a
wanna remember your
question?
face.
well, I just had the blonde-haired gal mentioned Mr. Mary.
Paul Mary,
Was he a music teacher in New Holland?
yes.
Okay,
And he taught
because,
piano in his home.
but I think he came to West Lincoln and taught music too.
Very
Because I can remember a Mr. Mary,
Yeah,
and it had to do with music.
Yes.
yeah, we had Mary's here, because
No.
So he got around.
I went to prom with his son.
Well,
Really?
his father was H.O. Mary, and I think he taught at the college, maybe.
Between the college and the high school.
Okay, H.O. did?
Because his
Okay.
son
And I was just little.
Yeah. So,
I just remember.
are there any other questions? Yes, John?
Are there family histories in it?
Oh, yes. Not the type you may think. These are histories that a family has written about their family. We're not doing like this one married this one and they had 18 kids, and then they married this one and they had this many kids. It's not based like you normally see. These are actually stories that they've written that you can start reading and read right on through it. And there's an article in there. If anybody knows Harold Harneke, do you remember Harold Harneke had the outside. He had all the artificial, the huge animals in his front yard, and they did a pantograph, I think, did something on him. His daughter wrote an article on their family there and living in the country. Several people wrote articles of growing up in New Holland. I know Nancy's article was growing up in a small town. So these are the type of family histories we have, okay, is where they're living, they're just telling you what it was like to grow up in New Holland and what they learned and their family experiences there. So
We have farm stories too. 'Cause Our farm was like, we've had a family for 5 generations, over 88 years. And then I found out my great-grandfather started the New Holland Lutheran Church, one of the original trustees, when it was in Germans. And I didn't know that, but found that out during that.
So now Margie is even bigger history buff, and she has a lot of answers to the questions she's had and didn't know that by working on this book, she would learn something.
That doesn't mean I'm gonna be on the meetings in New Holland.
Yes, Curtis?
Did New Holland have a newspaper?
Yes. New Holland Herald, I think it was. or
New Holland
Journal. Journal. New Holland Journal, okay. They did, many years ago. In fact, there are some, Tazewell County digitized a few of the years that we had, because Emden had gotten those. They had New Hollands and Emdens, and Tazewell County had digitized all of those with the permission of the historical societies. And they are online. If you go to Tazewell County, and I think we have them online at New Holland, and I think Emden has them online. So you can go there and preview. But it was only for a few years, it wasn't all of them.
Is Casperini still the fire chief
No, he's in Middletown.
That's
in
Middletown.
Middletown?
How many books did you publish?
400.
What's the cost?
$25. And that was the same price of the 125th. We did not allow inflation to hit the cost of this book. So it's $25, 217 pages, and it has an index, so you'll be easy to find who you're looking for.
Don't forget the index.
So anyway, there's no other, yes, sir.
Mostly Chris Hinch.
Where did the name New Holland come from?
New Holland. Okay, they're telling me to tell you to read the book. Okay. But you'll find out something new. Yes, you'll find out something new. If you read it in the past, don't believe it, because we found the actual.
Oh, okay. All right.
It is in the book.
It is in the book, in 3 places, yes, by former, yes, oh yes.
And there may be other families upset about it. We might have opened up a box of them.
So please visit us as we're in jail. If that's everything, I thank you all for your attendance and for attending, and again, when you work with a terrific committee, you can come up with something that's quite successful. Thank you.
Very good.